On a cold December morning, the biting wind stung Shiho's cheeks and burned her eyes as she stepped out of the house. Her mother called after her, reminding her not to forget the birthday cake for her father, and to go early so as not to get caught in the rush hour crowd. It was her father's birthday, an important occasion, yet it happened to fall on the same week that Shiho and some of her classmates were assigned to clean the school drains after lessons. Shiho only muttered a brief reply, wrapped her scarf tightly, and hurried toward the station. The walk from the apartment complex to the station took about 10 minutes, but it always felt longer to her, especially because she had to climb a steep stairway that led to the bustling street. Just as the train arrived, Shiho reached the platform. She seemed to have developed a special sense, always arriving exactly when the train pulled in. Stepping inside, the bitter cold vanished at once in the warm car. But unlike the comfort of the train, her school was very different. Though it had heaters installed, they were never turned on, all under the excuse of saving money. Although the train brought her warmth, school was a place that gave Shiho no comfort. The administration almost never used the heating system, citing budget constraints. Yet Shiho knew the principal's office was always warm, as she had discovered the week before when she was summoned. She had been accused of cheating on an exam, a crime she was completely innocent of. During the test, a note with answers had been passed around among other students, and at the worst possible moment, it landed in Shiho's hands just as the teacher looked up. With no way to defend herself, she had only silence. Being a mixed child, Japanese mother, American father, already placed her at a disadvantage in the eyes of some teachers and classmates. With average grades at best, the accusation only made her an easy scapegoat. At 3 o'clock that afternoon, after lessons ended, Shiho and her group began the assigned task of cleaning the drains. It was exhausting, filthy work, dragging away heavy concrete covers, scraping thick green slime off the walls, and shoveling the foul sludge into bins. After just a few covers, everyone was already drained, their hands and feet going numb from the cold. An hour later, exhaustion gave way to frustration, and tempers flared. Kazu, a notoriously rough classmate, snapped. He shouted that it was all Shiho's fault, that if she were pure Japanese, none of them would have been punished. Without restraint, he hurled a full shovel of black sludge into her face and hair. The class erupted in cruel laughter. Shiho stood frozen, tears brimming as rage exploded within her. Amid the taunting, Shiho could hardly believe what had happened. Anger long suppressed burst forth. She screamed in fury and bolted into the freezing night. Kazu's shouts to come back still echoed behind her, but Shiho no longer cared. She ran straight to the station, ignoring stares and whispers of strangers. All she wanted now was to get home, to sink into hot water and wash away the shame clinging to her body. As she waited for the train, her mother's words rang in her mind. She still had to buy the cake. Reluctantly, she went into the station restroom, wiping herself off and fixing her clothes. Then she went to the bakery. Instead of sympathy, the shopkeeper coldly ordered her to wait outside because of the stench clinging to her. When she finally received the cake, the woman's disdainful look left Shiho even more humiliated. Returning to the station, Shiho found it packed with the evening rush. Clutching the cake tightly, she tried to avoid the shoving crowd, but people grimaced, covering their noses, telling her to keep away. Surrounded by scorn and complaints, Shiho clenched her teeth, determined only to protect the cake for her parents' sake. But as the train approached, the crush of bodies pushed her to the platform's edge. With both hands holding the box, she had nothing to grip. In an instant of chaos, Shiho lost her balance and fell onto the tracks. Screeching brakes filled the air, but it was too late. The train tore through her, slicing her body in half. Silence descended over the station. For Shiho, everything ended there, a death unjust and full of rage. Shiho's death shattered her parents. Her father, who had looked forward to a warm birthday evening, was instead faced with the loss of his only child. Her mother, consumed by guilt, regretted ever asking Shiho to buy the cake that fateful day. Their home, once filled with laughter, became heavy with grief. They never recovered. But Shiho's classmates forgot her quickly. Within days, they mocked her death with cruel jokes. Some sneered that she was no longer a whole girl, while others quipped that her funeral was probably half price. The school echoed with their laughter, as if her gruesome death was nothing more than a punchline. None of them thought of the loneliness, the humiliation, or the agony she endured in her final moments. While her parents lived with sorrow, her classmates turned her tragedy into amusement. But they did not realize their cruelty had planted seeds of vengeance. Shiho's spirit could not rest. Her bitterness and rage transformed her into something else, an entity of bloodlust, waiting to strike down those who had mocked her and pushed her into despair. That very night, after a long day of cleaning, Shiho's classmates returned to the station for the last train. The platform was empty, swallowed by shadows and icy wind. Exhausted, they sat in silence. Suddenly, an eerie sound echoed. Teke! The metallic scraping reverberated in the darkness. Startled, they looked at each other. "What was that?" one whispered. "I don't know. It's coming from the tunnel." The sound grew louder. Out of the gloom, a figure emerged, eyes glowing red, hair hanging over half her face, her body severed in two. With bloody hands, she dragged herself forward, the sound Teke chilling the air. In her grip gleamed a scythe of cold steel. It was Shiho, no longer the weak, humiliated girl, but a vengeful ghost. Screams filled the platform as the group tried to flee, but Shiho moved with terrifying speed, dragging herself across the ground faster than they could run. In a frenzy of blood, she swung the blade, cutting each of them in half. Their cries for help, their desperate calls for their mothers, dissolved into a chorus of horror. None escaped. Amid pools of blood, Shiho laughed maniacally and whispered in a voice like ice. "Now you know what it feels like to be only half a person." From that moment, the legend of Teke was born. The ghost cut in two, forever hunting the cruel and the careless, condemning them to the same fate. Since that night, Shiho's story spread quickly throughout the town and far beyond. People began to call her Teke, after the chilling sound of her dragging herself across the ground. Students whispered that if you passed the station late at night, you might hear it. Teke. Some swore they had seen her figure, hair covering her face, eyes burning with hate, stalking them from the shadows. Over time, Teke became one of Japan's most terrifying urban legends, a warning to those who sow cruelty and scorn. For once you anger this vengeful spirit, a death sliced in half will be your inevitable fate.